Oftentimes within many organizations, it is possible sales teams and sales managers are broken up into various sales territories. Utilizing sales territories can improve the sales potential because the members of a territory are now focused on the services or sales within that territory. In the sales module for Dynamics 365, sales territories can be identified. They can represent geographical areas or different kinds of regions within a certain area. Now, how can sales territories be used in the system specifically? Once we create a territory we want to, or we currently use, we can link existing users within the system and identify them as managers. We can then link individual salespeople as team members of a territory. Now, it's important to note that while one sales manager can be tied to many salespeople, a sales manager can only be tied to one sales territory. The same thing applies to a salesperson. A salesperson can only be or belong to one territory. In addition, when managing records such as leads, accounts, or contacts, we can also directly link those record types to a sales territory. As with manager and salespeople, this too can help not only for workflow purposes, but also for reporting purposes. And finally, in some scenarios, it might be appropriate to identify a default price list for various sales territories. Imagine a scenario where perhaps you've offered different types of services, and depending on the territory, the price of the service is different. In that scenario, it might make sense that you have a different pricing, say for an outdoor security installation services in Dallas versus what you might have in Denver. Such as you might have different price lists assigned to those territories, and then assign those territories to customers based on their locations. Now that we have a better idea about what a sales territory is and how it can work potentially, or how it can potentially be used within the system, let's take a look at how we create and manage them. All right, so take a look at creating sales territories within the system. We're actually going to go to our module selector, and this time, instead of under the sales module, we're used to looking at different records related to sales. We're actually going to go to settings, and from settings, we're going to go to business management. From the business management, we're going to scroll down, and over on the left-hand side, you'll see that this is where we have sales territories. Now again, as a reminder, with sales territories, we can have as many territories as needed, but we can only have a manager assigned to one sales territory, and we can only have members or users associated to one sales territory as well. So from here, if we want to be able to create a new territory, I can click on my new icon from my command bar. And from here, I'm going to give it a territory name. So let's say that we have two territories. We have the North Territory and we have the South Territory. So you'll see within the territory name, I can simply just give it a name. Now you'll notice that manager is not a required field, so I don't necessarily have to assign a manager to a territory. But then from here, you'll notice I actually have several different grids that I can go and I can look at as well, but I can't do anything until I save the record. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to actually save that territory name. And then from here, let's say in fact I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to create a new one. So you'll notice that not only do I have save and close, but then I also have save and new. So I'm going to click on save and new, and we're going to have this one as being my South region. And on this one, let's say that I'm actually going to be set up as being the manager. So now, once I save that, again, if I wanted to, you'll now see under the Common section, I can click on Members, and as soon as I save that record and I added a manager to that sales territory, you'll see that within my members list, that user is now automatically a member of that territory. Okay. So you'll see that she's in there. Now, if I wanted to add additional members, you'll notice that when I click on the members option from my list over on the left-hand side, that I actually now have a new tab available to me, and that's my list tools. So from here, I have the ability to add additional members. And you'll notice that when I click on Add Members, it's letting me know that I'm about to change the territory for the user. And it will remove the user if they were in another territory. It will remove them from that territory and put them in this one. So we just need to realize the impact of what's happening when we actually select those users. So in this one, I'm actually going to do we're going to do demo user 3 on this one. Oops. All right. Now, a couple of things that you'll also notice is depending on your territories or how you manage your sales territories, you'll also notice that from here, we have the ability to go in and do filters. So if we need to filter this down, again, if we have a lot of members within that territory, we can also do charts. And if even I go back to my territory tab, one of the other things I have the ability of doing as well is I can set up connections. Now I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to save and close this, and I'm going to go back to my Northern Territory. So we're going to call this one, we'll update this, we're going to call this one North Region. And on this particular one, the manager I'm going to put on here is CRM Demo User, we'll do this as being Demo User 1. All right, so again, I go into members and I'm going to add a new member on this one. Again, you'll see that we get the message saying if they're part of an existing territory, they're going to be added to this one. And on this one, I'm going to do demo user 4. Now, not only does it actually add the users to the sales territory, but again, the sales territories are now going to be linked to these user records. So from here, if I actually click on the username within my sales territory, it's going to open up my user record. And within my user record, you will see that we can actually go in and we can look at what territory they're currently assigned to. All right, so now that we're in the user record, you'll see that one of the first things to notice is that when we go into that user record, it doesn't look like we can find anything regarding our organizational units. But one of the things that we actually have available within the Dynamics 365 environment is to be able to have different forms. So if you actually go right above where the username is and we change that form to the user form instead of the application form, you'll now see that this is where I can see more details about my user. If I scroll down, over on the right-hand side under the organizational information, you'll see that this is where I can, if I want to assign sites, managers, positions, but more importantly, I can even assign territories. Now, if I go through, and let's say, for example, from the user record, I assign them to the South region. And once I assign them to the South region, let's see what happens in my sales territory. So now, when I go to my South region, I go into Members. You'll now see that CRM Demo User 4 is now part of the South region. If I go back and I look in my North region, and I go to Members, you'll see that the only user that is going to be a member of the Northern region is going to be my manager, who is my CRM Demo User 1. Okay. So when it comes to working with sales territories, it's one of those that you definitely want to make sure that you plan it out because, like we said before, you can only have a manager assigned to one territory and you can only have members assigned to a single territory as well. Now again, it's not required, but if you are going to use those sales territories, make sure you have it mapped out and have it organized so that when you start adding members to the system, it's a lot cleaner to be able to organize who's a part of what territory.